I was going to your website and you mentioned that during the day you help APAC companies create customer-centric products, right? Which are based on design thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel that this design thinking comes from your experience at Luma, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can you double click on that and like what is design thinking all about?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I was in high school, I visited this design studio that did a lot of work with like the Defense Department, Coca-Cola, and all these really weird clients. And I remember their offices were just like these super kind of creative hubs. Like they used these like yurts basically with like whiteboards on all the walls. And I was immediately like seduced. Because up until that point, my dad worked in banking. So I saw like cubicles everywhere. So this is the coolest shit.
Yeah.
So when I was in college, I started to get deeper into human-centered design, which is really just the practice of like making things usable. And because I was always interested in like the creative arts in general, I didn't really have like the technical ability to be like a painter, or I made music and stuff, but I was never really talented as an artist, I think. So I was like trying to find an outlet for that, kind of fusing that creative energy with like professional purposes and helping like people accomplish goals. So human-centered design is just about making things easier to use, better to use, and helping solve real problems.
Sounds like Solana.
Sounds like Solana. That's the thing. Yeah. It's like it's things that like fit well is the basic idea. So Steve Jobs, who's a complicated guy, but has some really great lines about design. You know, it's like design is not how it looks, it's how it works. So there's a lot of this kind of like full customer journey mapping kind of efforts that happen of like, how do you optimize each individual touch point? How do you make sure that you're responding to the unique needs, personalizing experiences, and so on? And I picked up a lot of that at Luma itself, which was kind of like where that started to take off. So there's like this field of human-centered design. It's been around since I think like the 40s or 50s. And then design thinking is like a specific process that IDEO mostly pioneered in the last 20-ish years. And so we did a little bit of both at Luma.
And what was your role at Luma?
So I ran APAC for them. So I started off like I attended like a workshop to learn how to use the methods. At the time, I was running my own digital agency. And so I would use the methods with clients. They worked pretty well. People were into it. Yeah. So I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. And then I just became friends with some of the team there. And one of the co-founders became a mentor of mine. Shout out to Pete. And I told him I was going to move to Singapore. And the plan at the time was, I'll run my business in America and in Singapore. So I hired somebody to lead it in America. And then kind of 3 weeks before I was supposed to move, she quit. So then I was mostly fucked. It was like, I can swear on here, I guess.
Yeah, of course.
So I was straight fucked. I went to Pete. I was like, Pete, I need some help, buddy. Like, what's going to happen here? And he's like, Kash, you're great. If you go to Singapore, like maybe we could start like an APAC thing. Who knows? There's something there. So if it doesn't work out with your business, let me know. I moved over. Surprisingly, did not work out with the business because I was like working until 5 a.m. trying to service U.S. clients. It was a pain. And so that's how I kind of got onboarded there. Started as like just doing the workshops. And then, I don't know, within like a span of a few months, I was like the youngest person doing workshops and then sales. And then very quickly, I was just kind of leaving all of APAC. So working with clients like Petronas, AIA, AXA, a lot of insurance companies and other people in that field to do real like kind of executive strategy coaching and workshops.
If there were some things that you would like to like pick out from these experiences regarding design thinking and put it to like crypto products of today's age, right? What would like those things be?
I think the first one is probably that context is kind of everything. And so like a good product in crypto should not look like a good product in whatever traditional tech, for example, because you're designing for different audiences. And you see this with like Pump.Fun is an example of this right now that I'm sure you've seen, the meme coin launcher. You know, you look at it, it kind of gives you a seizure. It makes you want to vomit. And yet they did $5 million in revenue in their second month, right? And it's all because they kind of understand the 4chan aesthetic that is native to the degens that actually use their product. So I encourage people not to just kind of copy paste designs that they've seen and kind of make things that are more specifically relevant to their particular users.
Dbridge as well, right? Like they've been doing crazy amount of volumes.
Shout out to Dbridge. They did like 175K in fees yesterday. Like it's bananas, honestly. So yeah, I think just like understanding your users ends up being like the most important thing. The other thing is oftentimes people forget about the kind of like the beginning and end of experiences. There's an idea that maybe you've heard me talk about before called peak end theory of like how memories are kind of formed, right? Where it's largely it's the peak, whether it's the high or low, and the end of the experience to kind of figure out form the basis of your memory. So from this interview, like I will walk away with whatever like the biggest laugh line or my biggest flub is, and then however the last 2-3 minutes go. That's kind of what gets formed. And I think a lot of crypto products don't think about that full timeline. They think about it more as like just a purely functional kind of area. So I think designing like continuous experiences where you're able to re-engage with people. So like the next time they come back to your app, you should say something to them if you know that they've been there, right? Or when they cross little thresholds, you can gamify the experience there. So a lot of these end up being like really kind of raw protocols without kind of the polished user experience that I think would drive like more retention and more usage.
Right.
And so we're trying to do some of this stuff both within super teams, where like community is a product, within Super Team Earn, which is kind of our flagship bounty product.
Yeah.
And trying to design kind of like the holistic life cycle rather than just individual points in time.